The church was full. White flowers lined the aisle. Soft organ music floated through the air. My parents sat proudly in the front row, smiling like nothing in the world was wrong. And standing at the altar was my sister, wearing the wedding dress I helped her choose, holding the hand of the man who used to call me his future wife. Everyone in that church believed this was a beautiful love story, a story about fate, about two people who found love in unexpected places. But I knew the truth. 3 months earlier, I had walked into my own apartment and found my fiancé kissing my sister on the couch we picked out together. The betrayal didn't just break my heart. It rewrote my entire life. And when I tried to explain to my parents what happened, they didn't take my side. Instead, my mother looked at me with tired eyes and said the one sentence that still echoes in my head. Sometimes you just need to be the bigger person. Be the bigger person. Translation: smile. Swallow the humiliation. Pretend your sister didn't steal the man you were supposed to marry. So that's exactly what I did. I smiled. I helped plan their engagement party. I even helped organize their wedding. But what nobody knew was that before the ceremony began, I had already handed the priest an envelope. And when he finally opened it, the entire church went silent. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, family, a partner, or both, you're going to feel this story deep in your bones. So hit like, subscribe, and stay until the end. Because this revenge, it's one of the most satisfying you'll ever hear. My sister Emily had always been the golden child. Growing up, she could do no wrong. If she forgot to do chores, my parents said she was busy. If she broke something, it was an accident. But if I made the same mistake, suddenly I was irresponsible. I learned early that Emily lived in a different reality than the rest of us. Still, I never imagined she'd cross this line. My fiancé Daniel and I had been together for 4 years. We met in college. Late-night study sessions turned into coffee dates. Coffee dates turned into road trips, shared dreams, and eventually, a ring. The night he proposed, I cried so hard I could barely say yes. My sister hugged me and said she was happy for us. I believed her. God, I was stupid. 3 months before our wedding, Daniel told me he needed to work late. That wasn't unusual, but something felt off that night. A strange heaviness in my chest. The kind of feeling you get when your brain knows something your heart refuses to accept. So I left work early. When I opened the door to our apartment, the lights were dim. I heard laughter from the living room. Emily's laugh. My stomach dropped. And then I saw them. My sister, sitting in Daniel's lap. Their lips pressed together like they had done it 100 times before. For a moment I couldn't move. The room spun. My brain tried desperately to rewrite what my eyes were seeing. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe it was some misunderstanding. Then Daniel saw me. And instead of jumping away in shame, he sighed. Like I was the inconvenience. Look, he said, rubbing his temples. This wasn't supposed to happen like this. Emily stood up slowly, smoothing her dress. And then she said the sentence that shattered whatever was left of my heart. You deserve someone better anyway. Better. As if she had done me a favor. I remember laughing. Not because anything was funny, but because if I didn't laugh, I might have screamed. The breakup happened that night, but the betrayal? That was only the beginning. Because a week later, Emily and Daniel announced they were in love. And 2 months after that, they were engaged. My parents called me into the living room when they heard the news. I thought they would be furious. I thought they would defend me. Instead, my father cleared his throat and said quietly, "Families shouldn't tear themselves apart over relationships." Then my mother reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "You're strong," she said gently. "You can be the bigger person." That was the moment something inside me changed. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet little shift in my chest, a realization. If they wanted me to be the bigger person, fine, I would be, and the first step, smiling when they announced their engagement party. The second step, helping plan their wedding. But the final step, that part was still waiting inside a sealed envelope. Helping plan your ex-fiancé's wedding to your own sister is a strange experience. People kept telling me how graceful I was being. "You're handling this so maturely," my aunt whispered at the engagement party. My mother bragged to relatives that I was such a strong girl. Every compliment felt like sandpaper scraping across my nerves. But I kept smiling. Because the truth was, the closer I got to the wedding day, the calmer I felt. Not happier, calmer. Like a storm that had finally decided exactly where it was going to strike. And the moment that changed everything happened about 3 weeks before the ceremony. I was at a coffee shop when I overheard 2 women talking behind me. They were discussing a wedding scandal, where someone exposed an affair with evidence during the ceremony. One of them laughed and said, "Imagine finding out at the altar." That sentence stuck in my brain like a splinter. Imagine finding out at the altar, and suddenly, the idea formed. Because Emily and Daniel weren't just cruel, they were careless. When they first started sneaking around, they hadn't exactly been discreet. I still had messages Daniel accidentally sent to me instead of Emily. Late-night texts, photos, even voice messages. And after I started quietly digging, I discovered something even better. Their relationship hadn't started 3 months before my wedding. It had started over a year earlier, while Daniel was still planning our future, while Emily was helping me pick out wedding decorations, while they both stood next to me smiling in engagement photos. I spent 2 weeks organizing everything. Screenshots, messages, photos, dates, timestamps. I printed everything. Then I wrote a short note to the priest. It said, "Before you continue the ceremony, please read the contents of this envelope aloud. The truth deserves witnesses." I sealed the envelope, and on the morning of the wedding, I arrived early. The church smelled like roses and candle wax. Emily hugged me when she saw me. "I'm so glad you're here," she said. Her voice was soft, sweet, fake. Daniel barely looked at me. I handed the envelope to the priest quietly before guests arrived. "This needs to be read before the vows," I told him. He looked confused but nodded. Then I took my seat and waited. The ceremony started beautifully. Music played. Guests smiled. Emily walked down the aisle glowing with happiness. My parents beamed with pride. Then the priest reached the part just before the vows. He paused, cleared his throat. "And before we continue," he said slowly, holding the envelope, "I have been asked to read something." Emily frowned. Daniel shifted nervously. The priest opened the envelope. At first he looked confused. Then his eyes widened. But he continued reading. Text messages, dates, proof of the affair, proof that it started while Daniel was still engaged to me. Gasps rippled through the church. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Emily's face drained of color. Daniel looked like someone had dropped him into freezing water. "This isn't real," Emily snapped, grabbing for the papers. But the damage was already done. People were pulling out their phones. Whispers turned into arguments. My mother looked at me with horror. "Did you do this?" she asked. For the first time in months, I felt light. I stood up slowly, smiled, and said calmly, "You told me to be the bigger person." Then I walked out of the church while chaos exploded behind me. Here's the thing about betrayal. People always expect the victim to stay quiet, to forgive, to move on politely so everyone else can stay comfortable. But sometimes, truth is the only justice you get. I didn't ruin their wedding. They ruined it themselves the moment they decided my trust meant nothing. All I did was make sure the truth had an audience. And the funny thing? After that day, nobody ever asked me to be the bigger person again. If this revenge story gave you chills, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more jaw-dropping Reddit revenge stories just like this one. And now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below. Was this revenge justified? Or did she go too far? Because honestly, when betrayal comes from the two people you trusted most, sometimes silence just isn't an option. And if you love stories where karma shows up at the perfect moment, stick around, because the next story might be even crazier.